I know,
Wow.
yeah.
Crazy.
Well, the
Anyway,
stream is live, it says.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. So catch it while you
Yeah.
can. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, James.
Hello, Amy.
Hi,
Hello,
David.
Amy, America and the universe. Yeah.
Hi, Liverpool. Hi, England. So,
Yeah. Update. Right. It's telling me that I'm going live with me. Right. Oh, there you go. I'm back.
right.
Yeah.
Good.
So, how are you, Amy?
I'm good. We were just talking, and I just came back from the movie theater. Look, I have my movie theater my free soda.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. All the popcorn and soda.
It was free, was it? Did you say it was free?
Free soda, free popcorn. The candy is not free, so if you want candy, you have to pay for it. That's all right.
So they get you on the candy. It's like when you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, but they get you on the drinks.
That's right.
That kind. Well, they do that in England. I don't know whether they do that in America, but the food's like cheap, but they put lots of salt in it, so you have to have lots to drink.
Yeah, that's true.
Ridiculous. Got a good thing going on there. Sorry, I'm waffling on already, Amy. Sorry.
Yeah, they have you ever been to? And hi, everyone. We're just gonna chat, and then we're gonna get into the very serious topic of John F. Kennedy and what happened. We've kind of already talked about this in relation to John, so it's the anniversary is coming up. At the 22nd is what? Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is Thursday, so yeah, he was killed on the 22nd of November. But
right, yeah, okay. I've got some interesting things to tell you about that as well from the English point of view, just to keep it a bit things that you may not have heard of from the American side of things, but some interesting things are all the same. But carry on. I interrupted you there, Amy.
Well, I guess since we're on it, we'll talk about that. Well, first of all, how are you doing, Jamie? How are things in England?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Yeah, quite well there. Well, we don't have Thanksgiving over here, but like Christmas starts the build up to Christmas starts early. So there's lots of like caroling taking place and stuff.
Really?
It gets earlier and earlier each year, and stuff like that. And but yeah, so I'll show you that next time. But I'm in the process of decorating the house now for my mum. Christmas decorations, putting the tree up and stuff. When do you put your tree up, Amy? If you put a tree up, that is.
It really varies by year because a lot of times I don't want Christmas to come around until way after Thanksgiving, and then other times I'm ready for it to be here early. But I think that I usually like a couple weeks before Christmas. I think is appropriate. But everybody around here is already starting to put up their lights, and I've seen trees, and I think it should probably wait till after Thanksgiving.
I can see that. Why you're going to do? Yeah, because Thanksgiving is just as important in America, isn't it? So you don't want that to lose its significance, so to speak. I mean, that's a good point. I didn't realize. I mean, so there would have been people celebrating Thanksgiving around the time Kennedy was assassinated. Then
yes,
would that be right? So, I mean, that would have been a particular downer to that year's Thanksgiving, I should imagine.
Well, I think that's what's really fascinating about it is it was right before everybody in America got around their family table. And mind you, when Kennedy was killed, and I guess his name was Jack, but everyone called him John Kennedy. Now we say just JFK, but he was Jack Kennedy. And he was very beloved. I know people hated him, which is why what happened, but he was actually really beloved, and he and Jackie were considered like royalty. And my mother would say that they called it Camelot. And
that was because that was his favorite musical, wasn't it? He quoted the musical and sorry, I'm not ready to give you trivia. My apologies, Amy. Yeah, but he quoted lines from the musical and I think it was, I don't know, Variety, an interview with Variety, something like that. And then the newspapers picked up on it. They started calling his family and as it was situated in the White House. But also, I mean, his family history prior to assuming the role of presidency with his father and his his brothers and his sisters. It was similar to that kind of Arthurian legend, wasn't it? And like
Yeah.
like lots of similarities to that. And so I interrupted you again, Amy. My apologies.
No, didn't they sort of have a dynasty of the family, the big Catholic family, and that whole thing? And
Yeah,
his dad was.
yeah. And
Mhm. No, I was
sorry,
going
I
to say
keep interrupting.
no. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I need to learn how to wait. No, it was. I mean, I don't know a lot, but I do know that their family. I would call them a dynasty. Wouldn't you call it? Their family had like a
Yeah,
money and power.
yeah, that was it. Yeah, his father was one of the main pioneers in Hollywood history, wasn't he? He was.
Hmm.
He was like a movie mogul, so to speak, and he saw his father certainly saw the benefits of propaganda through film,
Oh,
and how it could influence things in politics and stuff. And so through his movie studio, he kind of he put a lot of films into production that would serve that well. And then of course that served his family well when he eventually got into politics and stuff like that. And but I mean, it seems to me that Kennedy was like the first kind of, well, maybe not the first, but he certainly seemed like sort of like a rock and roll president. He had that kind of
yeah.
glamour to him that maybe hadn't been there previously. That's how it seems to me, anyway. What would you say about that, Amy? Do you think he fits into that kind of like 60s iconic?
I think so. If you look at a lot of the pictures of him where he's with different celebrities and he fit in, I mean, he had that smile. He had sort of a Hollywood smile and the charisma. And
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, if you look at like his association with the Rat Pack as well, I suppose. So kind of fits in there, doesn't it? Although, I mean, that would end badly for both sides, wouldn't like his
True.
his friendship with Sinatra and stuff. But yeah, but he certainly fitted in with that kind of that look, didn't he? But what was I going to say? I think in England as well, he was like, sorry, I readjust myself here. In England too, he was considered highly because of his connections to Ireland, and therefore to England, and so I don't. It felt like he had more. He had more of an influence on the English way of life than maybe American presidents had before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, probably so. And I just thought of something that he was so young that he appealed to a much younger crowd, and that brought in a whole new, generation of people that would follow him. And he wasn't like
Do you think?
Eisenhower, who was the older crowd,
Yeah.
the parents' president. He was their president. He was a new generation president.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he sort of spoke to the younger generation in that respect. Would you say?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, what do you think about the stories of his connection to Marilyn Monroe? Do you think? Because I've heard people say that it wasn't as it was reported, and by the same token, I've heard other people say we still don't know. We still don't know how sort of heated that affair was. What would you think about that?
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I think he was a womanizer, and they definitely had a connection. And whether or not he was connected to her death, I don't know. I think it was covered up. But he had problems. He definitely had issues with cheating and things like that. And so that's unfortunate. You think about what a great president he was, but then you think of that and you go, oh God, it's kind of terrible, and how they brushed it under the rug, and it's too bad.
Yeah. But in a way, does that make him more human for him to have that kind of?
I think so.
But then again, I mean, it's one thing to have an affair with Marilyn Monroe, isn't it? But then, if you get secretly filmed saying you can grab someone by the pussy, I mean, I would be, I would find that. I don't want to keep talking about that person, Amy, but that to me is genuinely offensive. What that person said, whereas, I think if he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe, it gives him it adds to his sexiness. There's no other word for it. That kind of. is streetwise kind of is the glamour to it adds to his glamour, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, they were two consenting adults, and they, okay, so they both had issues. She wasn't perfect, and she obviously had daddy issues, wouldn't you say? And I think genuinely he just was sort of he just liked women and liked to be in relationships with women. But like you said, he wasn't disrespectful. It was just a thing he had where he loved being with, like, it was almost like a James Bond type of thing where he loved that. It probably came with, the great stress of being a president and needing to release and needing to not always be this perfect figure. And it probably came from a lot, and his childhood of his father controlling him and having, there's probably a lot of that.
Yeah.
And he was in pain all the time. A lot of people didn't realize that most of the time that they saw him on TV doing speeches, he was in a lot of pain and he was on painkillers. He had a brace that he wore. In fact, when he was shot, they had to cut through the brace because he was wearing this contraption.
That's right. Yeah. And he had colitis as well, I think. It certainly had some stomach ailment, and inner ear trouble constantly. He was like constantly plagued by abscesses in the ear, and that it's kind of horrible when you think the way his life was ended and that. But that's the strange thing about it. That's a good point, actually, Amy. Like, there's people who think that his autopsy was kind of like covered up to the extent it was because they didn't want people to know just how ill he was, but whilst he was alive. Yeah. So a lot of it was withheld, whereas other people say no, it was just changed because they didn't, there was like sort of, I'm just like treachery afoot, and they didn't want people to know just exactly the circumstances that he had died and stuff like that. It's still fascinating, though, isn't it? I like to kind of like wonder why did it get to that point? If you know what I mean. But I'm trying to say there, like, would they go to that length to cover his illness? Well, they must have done because no one knew about it while he was alive. It's only like subsequently it's come out about his neck problems and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose they wouldn't want people to know that because think about it, it's kind of like being a king or queen. If someone knows they can take you out and take your throne. So, you wouldn't want countries to know. You wouldn't want other leaders of other countries to know you had a weakness. I imagine there was a lot to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, interestingly enough, this will blow your mind. Well, actually, it won't. I've set it up too bigly now. But the first ever episode of Doctor Who went out on the night that Kennedy was supposed to go on the night that Kennedy was shot, and it was actually the first episode of Doctor Who was about the Abraham Lincoln assassination.
Wow!
And they realised that obviously it got pushed back because of the news reports, because the time difference over here. I think the first report was obviously that he'd been shot, and then like people were waiting to hear what was going to happen, and then it came to actually he's dead. And then someone said, you're going to have to take this new program off, this new science fiction program, because it involves a president getting shot, which is a really strange coincidence to happen, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, strange.
Which is fed into lots of conspiracy theories itself over the years. The producers of Doctor Who knew what was going to happen, and which is utterly ridiculous that it could get to that level. But can you remember then when? I mean, presumably you were born. Well, obviously you were born into a time when he was already dead. But can you remember when you first started hearing things about his assassination and stuff, and like the first time you heard about conspiracies?
Well, it was always kind of around, and I remember my mother had a book. She had like a bookshelf, and one of the books was Rose Kennedy, his mother, and then there was another book about Lee Harvey Oswald. And so I remember flipping through those quite a bit if I was bored or whatever. So through that, but also it was just in our culture, it was in our culture. And then they would have mini series about the Kennedys on TV. And then in the 90s, there was the whole thing with Oliver, who's the director who did the
Oliver Stone, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big thing.
JFK.
I still haven't seen that.
I wanted to see it because I thought it was a biopic about him for the start, and then I was only young when it came out, but kind of like thrown. I didn't realize it was exclusively. It was a look into his assassination. So it kind of threw me off. First thing I remember was, do you remember Quantum Leap?
Yes. Oh, yes. I remember Quantum Leap. Yeah.
Yeah, but they did an episode where Sam leapt into Lee Harvey Oswald, and he lost his memory, and it was actually really creepy. And he was speaking in Russian and things like that, and it was a bizarre episode. And then of course around the time of the 30th anniversary of the murder, they started showing the Zapruder footage of the murder, like exclusively on. It hadn't been shown on British TV a lot. There'd been like a kind of sort of like blanket ban on it cut because it was so violent. And then they started like easing up on those and showing it on on the news shows and stuff. And it was really disturbing to see. You know, like even though you more or less you knew what to expect, it was still, when you're confronted with it, it was kind of shocking to see
it is
sort of like,
that there's a warning now on YouTube. If you look for it, there's a warning, and it says this is disturbing material. Yeah, we know. I mean, like, that's why I'm here. Yeah. I want to see the evidence.
Exactly. I imagine that's why everyone's watching it. Well, a lot of people are watching it because they want to see
what happened. Like what exactly happened? Well, how did you're breaking up a little bit, so I'll wait. I'll let you catch up because it's sort of. We'll wait.
Yeah. Oh
no,
because they know. Yeah, well, I mean, so.
Hello, you were breaking up for a while. They're on to us. The CIA's. You here?
Hello. Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
I'm back. Can you see me now, Amy? Yeah, yes. That's the CIA shutting me down.
Yeah, that's what I think. Well,
I will not be silenced. Yeah, I was just about to ask you, so what is your theory on what happened? And then that happens. They're ahead of me. These secret organizations.
Do you want the long story or the short story?
Oh, well, go for the long one because I'm interested by this one.
Okay. All right. So I would say the first time I saw that Zapruder tape, thanks to the internet, thanks to YouTube, and I was like, all right, shot from behind, shot from in front. That's exactly
two shots.
Yeah, 2 or 3. And I was like, shot from behind, shot from in front, different guns. It was very obvious to me. You go and you try to watch all the things, like, scientifically it's proven that the brain will blow out from the behind the shot. And you're like, no, that's not what I'm getting. Yeah. Different gun, different shooter completely.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I think the reaction to a few of the people in the car as well. The reaction to the noises. It comes from. It's obvious that there's 2 ports of kind of, what would you call it? Like port of entry where the bullets are and stuff. I know the magic bullet theory and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, so it comes from multiple directions. Do you have a theory on who was responsible for those directions, or is it?
Well, I just got an overwhelming feeling to say this is just psychic talk. This is not for entertainment purposes only, not fact.
Yeah.
But it was really clear that he was to be silenced and taken out by an entity inside job because he was getting too close to what we would call civil rights. And, he wasn't going to get into the war yet with Vietnam. And there was just a lot of things. He had a lot of things that were going to help with women and, minorities and things like that. And he got too close to progressive action. And that's never been okay with a certain function of government. And okay, so here's what I read too the other day, and this is how spirit works. I was suggested a video about Robert Kennedy, right? His brother, who was a very tough prosecutor against criminals. And they were actually really mad at him, and then they went after JFK, and then who else did they? It's the patterns of how they were all killed, and I'm going to include Martin Luther King too. All very similar, and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think if you look at well, he was close to both Martin Luther King, and obviously he was close to RFK, wasn't he? He was his brother,
Yeah.
and RFK suspected, like you said, because he was such a tough criminal prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
I think RFK blamed himself didn't he, for
That's what
his
I've
brother's
heard.
death. That's and in fact, there may be upon being shot himself. There's people who amongst his last words, he was supposed to have mentioned such. Whether that's part of actually happened or it's some kind of ongoing narrative to prove something else, I'm not sure. But yeah, absolutely, Kennedy was kind of. I think he underestimated. If he was strict on certain people, I think he may have underestimated how that would affect them from people in his own camp. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, the
retaliation.
Right.
Yeah, there was people who weren't gonna. You've got double agents everywhere and sleeper agents everywhere. Again, allegedly, just from a psychic's point of view, right. I imagine. But yeah, there's people who. It's sad to say, but there's people who will kind of. They will change history with a bullet before waiting for it to progress to somewhere they don't want it to go to. I think that seems to be what happened to me. But what about this theory? Have you heard the theory that he was actually accidentally shot by one of his own security people?
It doesn't resonate with me. I feel like there's just so much behind it that was nefarious that the accident thing doesn't resonate with me. I mean, there. Yeah.
I think my theory on that is, I think if that would have been the case, they would have brought that out before and said, look, it was all an accident. It was this idiot, bodyguard who didn't have the security thing on his gun and it fired. They would have made a big thing. Is that Kieran? Hello, Kieran.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Kieran. Hello.
Hi. Let's say hi.
Hello. Hi. Oh, he really loves you, Amy.
Yeah, I love him too. Uh-oh, he made Coco mad. Well, have you ever heard, you've heard about, okay, Jack Ruby. How did this whole thing get around with Jack Ruby? What's your theory on that? Because to me, it seems really obvious, his part in it. It seems really obvious.
Yeah, it just doesn't, it's farcical, isn't it, to think that Kennedy was shot and the man that shot him was shot by someone who died in prison 4 weeks later of cancer or whatever it was. It was obvious a question of someone stepping out the line and being being silenced. But yeah, Jack Ruby was nefarious, wasn't he? He had hello, Kieran. He's not interested in me at all.
Tell me some stuff here. Do you need to go potty? Is that what it is? It's been raining, and you know how that is. They won't go outside. So
yeah. Some of them are kind of bashful when it rains, aren't they? And Yeah. Okay then. So let me ask some questions here, Amy. Have you seen many films about Kennedy where people have played I know Martin Sheen played him in a miniseries.
Yeah, I think I saw that one, and that was good. I still need to watch the one about Jackie, where was it Natalie Portman played her.
Oh yeah.
I've seen different shows that I thought were good, but nothing's ever really gotten super close and super. Probably because they can't, because there's so much information that's missing. It's all posthumous.
Well, I like the way 45. I'll stop saying his proper name. Nobody said when I get in, I'm going to release all the files, and then when he got in, he actually suppressed files.
Yeah, there's just no way.
I think obviously they can't tell. Presumably, there's still people alive associated with it. Maybe, perhaps with who they don't want to, get in trouble. I suppose when everyone, maybe in 100 years' time, when none of us will be here, the truth will come out then. But then will people believe it in 100 years' time? I don't know, because it's been sort of kind of, like pistachioed a lot, hasn't it, since? And does it still hang over? Is it still like, I mean, like, can you still feel like the pain from kind of in America? Are people still like traumatized by it?
Yeah. It's interesting how it is still, and because he got stolen away from us, and a whole era of hope and possibilities was taken away. And that's the thing about the Beatles that I always thought was interesting. And when I was writing about with John, how when they showed up at a time when we were still mourning. Um,
Yeah.
From what I've heard, and you could still kind of sense how dark and how sad that was. And then they come in and they're all full of hope, and they're like singing about "I want to hold your hand" and all that, almost like their voices, like John and Paul, especially with the unison of their voices, had sort of like a healing tone to it almost. And then even the sound of the Rickenbacker had like a bell-like tone that was very bright and happy, and it came in with all this excitement, and it sort of washed it away. And I really think that's one reason why they were so popular, because we were still in mourning.
Yeah, they were the tonic there for that maybe America needed, and it's interesting to think how they would have had Kennedy lived to sort of meet the Beatles. What impact that would, like what that kind of would have done. Like, would they have met him, and presumably would have met him, and know, but yeah, like you say, I suppose I can't really think of anything similar. But like, when Diana died, and it was kind of England was in mourning then, but there wasn't a Beatles then to kind of get England out of it. But it would have been, I suppose, the same in the '60s. The Beatles coming over and like picking up like the youth and stuff like that. And but it's interesting, isn't it? Because when they first came to New York, they wanted them to go on like a ticker tape parade, didn't they? In an open car.
Yeah.
And they all agreed to it, apart from George. He said, "I'm not going in," because interestingly enough, George had actually been in America when Kennedy was shot.
Yeah.
He'd been visiting his sister Louise in Delaware, I think, in America. And so he'd been over there, so he'd saw like firsthand the impact. So that when they came back and they said, "We want you to go on an open car ticker tape parade," George said, "I'm not doing that." He said, "This is like 4 months since Kennedy's been shot." So it was abandoned.
Yeah, I don't blame
it was.
at all.
I know it was. Like, I can imagine him getting them to do that after John's Jesus comments as well. Like, that would have been a convenient time for them to go and for something like that to happen, wouldn't it? Like that. A message from Fatima, is that there, does it say?
He said blessings. Thank you. I said thank you and hello.
Thank you, Fatima.
That's sweet of her.
Yeah, it's very nice of her, yeah.
Happy to have you here. I imagine we have some lurkers, but we just don't.
Hello, lurkers.
Hey, world.
Everyone's welcome.
Hey, CIA.
Yeah, hello, CIA. The CIA will be banging on my door. That'll be the English equivalent of the CIA. I mean, yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
luckily, my mum's here to approach them. So
here's some theory. Okay, here's some theories.
Okay.
Okay, so the whole Men in Black thing.
Right.
That they came into the crowd, took video, took camera, film, blah 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 blah, and sort of talked to the people. In Willy Wonka, who's the guy in Willy Wonka? The guy in black.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah. Well, and there's Zapruder footage as well. That there's other people filming, isn't there? The Zapruder footage of it happening. There's footage of other people filming, but they've never been accounted for.
Yeah.
Which is really strange, because you'd think that if someone had it on film, they'd want to monetize from it. They'd want to make as much money from it as possible, but they haven't come forward. So presumably, someone knew what was about to happen. And
what if there's still somebody out there, somebody's basement, and there's a film in somebody's basement, and it just unearths out of nowhere, or like some picture.
If someone on Pawn Stars came into that, that thing, they went into Las Vegas with that. I imagine that would be well, the price on it would be astronomical for a start, wouldn't it? But I presume if they weren't there because they knew something was going to happen, they were there on some official capacity just to film the ticker tape parade. But it sounds strange, doesn't it, when you think of it that way? And yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there, Amy, with my little thing there.
No, but let's so there were people who initially said the shots came from over there. And then after they got talked to, they're like, I don't know, I'm not so sure anymore. And and they're like, I think it came over from the book depository. I find that strange because you do know what you hear and what happens. And then for them to change their stories, it even had them on the news that night. I've seen the footage where they talked live to people that were in the crowd, and then I don't know, they started to change their story, and I find that interesting how we can be so
and also, I mean, I've seen one report where someone says, I saw a black person hanging out of the window and he was firing a rifle. That's obviously just an opportunist racist hoping to get a black person arrested, and it's someone's being shot, right? There's a chance for it to happen and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the strangest one was that I saw. Someone said that they looked over like a couple of seconds after the shooting, and someone had the fingers to the lips. I had direct eye contact with someone, and there was someone who was at the fingers. Why would you do that? I imagine if you saw a president being shot, you'd be too traumatized to be able to compose yourself and then tell someone else to be quiet unless you were there for a reason. Again, allegedly.
Here's something really interesting. So maybe have you seen the footage with, I believe it's CBS with Cronkite, right? No, wait, who's the guy?
Walter Cronkite.
So they break in. First, it's a soap opera from the 60s, obviously the 60s. And it's right before Thanksgiving. So you're seeing some ads and it has that feeling of that pre-Christmas Thanksgiving era. And breaking news, Kennedy was shot. No news if he's okay, blah, blah, blah. And then they keep breaking, and then they go into the live TV because they have to get all the cameras warmed up and everything. But here's the thing. So soap opera, and then breaking news, Kennedy was shot, blah, 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 blah. And then an ad. And the first ad they show has a pendulum, and it's a coffee ad. Tick tock, tick tock. Do you like coffee? Patterns, the pendulum, pattern of words, the shots pattern themselves. And it's like, it looks like a hypnotic trick to calm people down just in case something like this were to happen. You should go watch it. It's there in the footage. You have to, get to that point. I always found that very fascinating how we do have things that are pre-made just in case. And we're so gullible that we're like, oh, that's just normal. But it literally has a hypnotic effect to, keep people calm. And you wonder how much that happens in our society where we're subdued during these type of events.
Well, what annoys me is that I think this is from my experience only. I have to talk about something about Liverpool here. I know I go on to bring Liverpool up an awful lot, but I've heard people saying, "Oh, I don't believe in conspiracy theories," and I don't go in for all that. But so you just believe if you don't believe in conspiracy theories, you just believe the official story what the media comes up with, which is usually to suppress the truth. Now, if I can just mention one thing, we spoke about it before, the Hillsborough disaster that happened in 1989. That was 97 Liverpool supporters died at a football match, and it was completely the fault of the police, because essentially the police penned everyone into one area, which they shouldn't have done, because there was thousands of people. People died in there. When they realised people were dying, they opened one of the gates, and people moved, and that caused people to be trampled on, and people died. And then the conspiracy theory began almost instantly, which was the Sun newspaper, which I don't normally mention the Sun's name, but because the police had friends in the media, the responsibility then of the newspapers was to put the blame onto the supporters. So the headlines the next day were like police beaten up, dying fans raped or urinated on and stuff. And
Yeah.
It's just none of it was true. If you couldn't move to breathe, how could you move to beat someone up and stuff like that? The reason I bring that up is because for years it took 30 years for the truth to come out about Hillsborough, and eventually the government opened up the files, the official files, and all these redacted statements were found. So there were statements of people of what actually happened that was crossed out, and there was a little star next to it saying, "Say this happened, say this," and it was proved then that there was nothing but lies. And the reason I'm bringing that up because you've just said about like the pendulum thing and all that, and hypnosis, and people believe in what they're fed. And I think that is the case. I think when something happens like that, whether anyone's responsible for it, I think the media will come out and try and manipulate people, and I think people will believe what they, whatever's told, rather than investigating it. And those who do investigate a bit further and look into it, you're met with the same kind of no. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but my point is that I don't think you should ever fully believe what is going on in the media. I think the media, parts of the media are responsible, but let me talk about the John Lennon murder. I mean, how many red flags in John's murder? There's like, in the first 10 hours of the reporting, there was something like 50 discrepancies about things that didn't happen. Well, where did they come from? Who was responsible for all this? And with Kennedy, it's gone on for now, for 60 years, hasn't it? It's people
It's very similar, isn't it? It has a very similar feel to it. I think they're very comparable, to be honest. Yeah.
I think people learn from things like the Kennedy murder, so that if disasters happen further down the line or assassinations, they can refer to it. Well, this is how this was covered up, so we'll sort of like put this into effect here. I'm not sounding really paranoid, am I, Amy, about this? But I think it's
no, yeah. Go ahead.
Even paranoid people get followed. If you know what I'm saying, it's like I think paranoid. People are paranoid, and people who are just aware of what's going on in the ether. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Now, my theory about conspiracy theories is that when a question isn't answered, that's when they start. So when somebody says, "Hey, I saw this thing happen," or "This thing happened to me," and somebody says, "No, it didn't," and then you're like, "But," and so you can tell somebody something didn't happen to them. That doesn't mean they're going to listen and believe it, because most people know deep in their heart when something really did, when they experience something, and if it was good or bad or something's off about it, you'll never convince a person your truth.
Yeah.
If it didn't happen to you, and something does happen to you and other people deny it, part of you will always say, "But I really," they don't know what happened to me. I saw it, I felt it, I experienced it. So the conspiracy theories start because we don't answer questions. We tell people, just trust the process, or trust the government, or trust whatever. So, like with the Kennedy thing, when they had the whole report came out, right? What was the name of the report? It had a certain name to it.
I can't think of the moment, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the report itself.
And people say, "Well, I believe the government, so I don't have any questions about this because they said in the report that this happened." And I'm like, okay, that's not how I feel. I feel like a lot of stuff happened, like bodies were switched and pictures were different. Like they showed pictures of the autopsy. It didn't look like him at all. And some of the bullet entries didn't look like they were in the right place, and things were different. Why did they hide the body? Why did they take it away? Why, it doesn't.
Yeah. How would they have had the time to have done that unless it was planned on some level? It's you ask questions like that. I think it's very valid points that you're bringing up. Amy, can I ask, as your psychic kind of ability, has that ever informed anything where Kennedy's concerned? Have you ever felt anything from that point of view, or is it based on what you've examined in books and stuff?
I felt like the kind of what I said, that there was a whole part of the insiders that didn't like the progress that he was making and how it would change a lot of what you would call status quo. And they saw he had a lot of influence. and also a lot of the things with the war, and it was he went into an area that was far right, and far right has always existed. I don't care if you call it, back then it was, well, before him, Democrats were far right. So it doesn't matter if you say Democrats or blah, 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 blah. The far right, Christian, whatever, they would never, and you can see how it is now. Anytime we try to progress, they freak out and they start having all these rules and these laws and try to take things away, and it's still happening.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, did they do it? Why would they do that? Well, it's still happening. They're still trying to suppress parts of society and minorities.
Yeah.
I hate that word minorities because we're all, saying we're the human race, but women, and they don't want women to get ahead and have rights. So
do you know Bill Hicks? Are you familiar with Bill Hicks?
Yeah, I've heard.
Well, he was a fanatic about the Kennedy assassination and that, and used to say people used to say to him, "Oh, it was a long time ago. Stop talking about it." And he used to say to them, "Well, all right, well, don't talk to me about Jesus." And but he said that you are free, America. You're free to do exactly as we tell you to do, which I think ties in with what you've just been saying there. It's like minorities are kind of put into place, aren't they, by the would-be superpowers above and whatnot. So here's a question then. So you mentioned it before with Martin Luther King and RFK. Do you think that JFK's murder fed in exclusively to RFK's murder? Do you think it was a question of like? Do you think he would have? Do you think RFK would have investigated it to the utmost of his ability if he became president, and that would have exposed people then?
I think he would have, but at the same time, people are going to believe what they want to. So you can, just like today, you can have evidence come out. You can have video evidence, and there's a whole portion of society that will say, "Oh, I don't believe that." And so you can only change people's minds when they're ready. So that, he could have said, "This happened to my brother," and only a certain portion of society would have believed him. So we really do only have so much power. However, what he did have was the ability to help people of color, and he was really into civil rights. I really feel like that had so much to do with what happened with John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, others, Medgar Evers, and then you go to John Lennon. A lot of it was empowering people that are considered minorities or the suppressed society. That's it.
And and they had to be silenced one way or another, didn't they? In those, and in the eyes of those who did it, I should say, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I don't want to get shot through my kitchen window in a second, but
don't answer the door tonight. Seriously.
Yeah. It's inevitable. It's going to happen to me eventually, I suppose. But no, that was a joke. But
we don't want that to happen. Well, think about this, Jamie. No, you know what I just thought of? You know how we've done all these things on StreamYard, and it would always record it. And tonight it said it's not going to record, and so it's not going to be available after we do this live. It's going to be lost. What's up with that?
That is weird, isn't it? Yeah, that's strange. They don't. Yeah, so they're silencing us. Not with a gun, but just not by having it shared beyond it being live. That is strange.
I should have Amy and Jamie talk about puppies. Like,
that's what we do from now on. That can be the code word for it. It was we're talking about puppies. Instead of instead of talking about them getting shot, we'll talk about rabies. That'll be our code word for for assassins and stuff like that. And there you go, Amy. Yeah, we're being monitored, perhaps. Well, I'm going to be in America next year at some point. So,
good.
Yeah. Well, so I'm just trying to think. So, no, I agree with what you're saying about America and being in mourning when the Beatles came along. Do you think that played a part in the Beatles' popularity then, or do you think they would have been popular anyway?
I think it did. because well, they had their own. Obviously, they had their own, and it was building up. In Europe, in England, and Europe, had a huge success. Since 1963, they were very. I mean, think about it. As soon as they met Brian, it all just exploded. Really, I mean, it was a quick succession of popularity. But I do think it had an influence. They came at the right time, and like you said, George was actually in America the summer before, so he got a feeling of uh, that it was in the air. It was in the air. So
yeah, and it's interesting as well because just this was February '64. Sorry, I always bring it back to the Beatles, don't I? I don't mean to, Amy, but I can't think about other things, but yeah, there was a concentrated effort by the London press in the early 1964 to take away from the Beatles because they felt like, well, we've created this monster. I'm not saying about all the London press here, but we've created this monster when we should have been concentrating on London bands. So there was a lot of a lot of was kind of wrote up the Dave Clark 5 then, where they were saying like they're gonna come and take the Beatles crown. And as it said in a lot of Beatles biographies, just as that was happening, America fell. So that became the biggest stuff. If you know why America fell, I mean, the Beatles conquered America essentially. So whatever the Dave Clark 5 were doing in England, it was small fry to what was going on across the Atlantic because no one from England had ever done it to that level before.
And think about it. That's why John, as much flack as he got for being kind of a badass in the beginning, right? Kind of an asshole. He had to be because if he wasn't, they may not have made it. He really had to push things, and he had a vision, and he really had to kind of be. I know it's, personal lives, whatever. I'm sure he regretted some things, but to get to where they were, he really had to push hard, and he got them there with Brian. Brian, yeah.
Well, I think him and Paul, were kind of, John was the lemon juice, wasn't he, to Paul's olive oil, that kind of thing. It was, it was for like the overwhelming kind of popularity for Paul was matched by people who like John's kind of anarchy and vice versa, I suppose. But I think he liked to wind Brian Epstein up. When he did the Royal Variety Show when he did the Rattle Your Jewelry line, do you know that one?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I brought it back to the Beatles again, Amy. I really don't mean to do that. It's just maybe I'm being dictated to by from like above. But yeah, he wound Brian Epstein up because it was in front of royalty, and he kept saying to Brian Epstein, "I'm going to say, people in the cheaper seats, clap your hands if the rest of you rattle your fucking jewelry." And he'd been saying to Brian Epstein, "No, this is it. I'm going to destroy it. I've had enough. I'm going to destroy it now." So when he did that line, Brian Epstein was literally quaking in the wings, thinking he was going to do it. And look, if you're lucky, you can think the look on his face. There is a kind of mischievous look to him that he's how close was he to doing it? I don't know. And sorry, Amy, I've gone on about the Beatles again.
Yeah, but I just thought of the Ruddles again and how they dictated the song to the Queen, and I don't know. I just thought that whole scene was hilarious.
Yeah, apparently, Paul McCartney was like deeply offended by the Ruddles.
I know, I can't believe it. I love it.
He was like, John loved it though, didn't he? John wouldn't give. Apparently, they lent John the master tapes, and he wouldn't give them back because he loved it so much. But yeah, like we were talking, I love the chastity character, like we were talking about the other day. Where the Yoko character, obviously, so they've made her a Nazi in the Ruddles. In fact, not only is she a Nazi, she's the daughter of Hitler, which doesn't get much kind of like more damning than that. But I like cheese and onion.
It's a genuinely good song. There's a lot of the songs in there. They used to have a show on called Beatles Brunch, and they would play songs from the Ruddles, just like a whole mix. They would play solo, like George and John and everybody, and they would play some Ruddles, and I was always like, those are actually really good. I mean, it's funny, but like the end note just goes bonk, instead of the long drawn out, bonk.
It's instead of yeah, that's brilliant. I like it in Cheese and Onion where he gets Yoko's. He spells out cheese and onion, CHESEANDON. Oh no.
cheese
which
and onions.
yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah, and Hey Diddle Diddle, of course, which is like I'm the Walrus, isn't it? But yeah, it's I don't know how anyone could be offended by it, but I suppose in it, Paul McCartney, like the Dirk McQuigley character, he comes off as a bit more kind of, how could you say,
Daft.
anally retentive. So maybe that's why Paul didn't like it.
Well, you know how.
Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent again, Amy. My apologies.
No, but everybody watched that movie. Now I want to watch the movie again because it's so. I mean, from the beginning scene where Eric Idle is the reporter and he's slowly walking, and then the camera's driving away from
The
him.
camera.
He has to run.
Yeah.
I mean, it's little things like that. Brilliant to me. I love that.
Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, that's in that's in Python a lot as well, isn't it? That they do that where the camera moves away from them and that. Yeah, we should watch it live actually if you'd be up for it. We could do like a live. If you'd be up for that, Amy, that'd be a good
yeah.
If you wanted to do that, I haven't watched it for a while myself.
Maybe you can figure out how to do screen and screen, or I know they have watch parties on Amazon, but sometimes you can do things where you stream it onto. You could put the third screen or whatever. I don't know. Maybe Zoom. I don't know. So if you can figure it out,
I'll get Zoom set up so that this doesn't happen, so we don't keep getting cut off, so we can record it and that and whatnot. Yeah, that was a pity. Yeah. Have you watched any more Kate Bush at all, or?
Well, I've seen like I talked about it before you mentioned her. I'd seen her, and I'd seen her on old videos of Saturday Night Live, so I knew of her. In fact, like I said, Tori Amos, who was very popular in the '90s, I feel like she stole a lot from Kate Bush, and Kate Bush did not get recognition for that until Stranger Things came out, and then everybody was like, "Wow, she's really cool," and now she's popular because of that show. So yeah,
there's an infamous. There was a Sinead O'Connor and Tori Amos. They were on a talk show in the UK, which was live. Having Sinead O'Connor on a live talk show isn't a good. I don't think it was the best of ideas if you didn't want controversy to happen. But basically, Sinead O'Connor said what you've just said. Tori Amos was trying to make out. She was saying that being original was important to her, and Sinead O'Connor said, "Well, I personally think you stole from Kate Bush, like the kind of." And kind of like you sort of the way you perform and like the material you use and whatnot, and it's fascinating. It's on YouTube. It's fascinating to see it because Sinead O'Connor wasn't one to hold back, was she? She was she spoke her mind on a myriad of topics, and that kind of thing. Sorry, Amy, we've gone completely off the Kennedy subject here. I don't mean to. I know I ramble on like this.
Well, let me say about Sinead really quick. When she passed away this year. I don't like to try to channel people after they pass because I don't think that's not very respectful. So I waited. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long I waited, but I did finally talk to her, and the first biggest thing I got was it was because of her son. When her son died, that just destroyed her. And then the other thing was that she liked John Lennon and that she felt a connection to him. And so
she was born on December the 8th. So I mean, and she'd saved up her birthday money to go and buy Double Fantasy. And do you know the story? And when she hadn't, obviously the morning that she went to get it, she hadn't listened to the radio or the news reports. And when she went to the store to get it, they had no copies left.
Oh wow!
And they said you're gonna have to come back, and which she thought was strange. And then like she had like some kind of spiritual like awakening there with John Lennon. She said, I don't know, she felt like she saw his face in the clouds or something like that, and that's what told her he was dead without finding out. And yet she felt connected to him ever since. And you can see she does have a lot of John's attitude to her. Mm-hmm. She was certainly a rebel who went against the kind of even like the idea of John growing his hair long, cutting her hair short is kind of inverted characteristics, isn't it, of the two and whatnot.
Well, she had a very specific role, and that's one thing that I got when I channeled her. It was very strong. Was that she went through a lot of pain. She was very emotionally, you know, I don't know what, but she one of her roles was to free people from religion, um, and you know, a lot of the abuse that came in with religion, and that was one of her roles in life, was to show people to extremely break themselves away from the chains of religion. Now, religion can be good. You know, it's part. All religion has a level of teaching, and you're supposed to keep moving up, right? It's not supposed to stagnate you. But what she was showing with people was that it was the parts of it that were very abusive and were sort of holding people down, especially like children. And that was her
Yeah,
role. That was her role. So she got a lot of flack for it, but she had a definite role, and she did help people. She was part of that movement to free
yeah.
yourself. I think that's
And
quite
isn't it,
powerful.
that's heartbreaking when you think about it. Like, I agree with you that that was definitely a role. Like, and she probably did help millions of children. And then when you look at the kind of, the hard line of facts is that she couldn't help her own child, and that probably, the realization of that probably just destroyed her, didn't it? It was, she probably did feel like she'd helped lots of people, but when it came to it, she couldn't help the one person who,
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking, isn't it, when to think about that, but, sorry, that's really depressing, maybe.
Well, she had a lot, but she was in her head a lot, and she was in her emotions a lot. And I think that sort of crippled her many times. And so it is hard to be a parent. But she did love him. It's just,
Yeah.
what
Oh,
can you
yeah, she adored him, yeah. Yeah, and well, she doted on him, didn't she? And it must be terrible to have to go through that,
do?
must be horrible, kind of one final, just go back to the Kennedy thing. Uh, Freddie Prinze was obsessed with the. Have I mentioned this to you before? He was. That's one of the conspiracy theories surrounding Freddie Prinze, is that Geraldo Rivera was the first person to broadcast the Zapruder footage on
Oh,
his
yeah.
program.
I've seen that show. Yeah.
Yeah, and Geraldo Rivera was part of the Puerto Rican Hollywood kind of brotherhood that Freddie Prinze belonged to, and he became obsessed with it.
Huh.
In fact, Freddie would invite people to parties, and celebrities to parties, and they think they'd be going to see The Godfather or something, and he just showed them, that footage over and over again, and people
Why?
got fed up with it, and so then people have thought, oh well, obviously he knew something that he shouldn't have known, and that resulted in, his death, which isn't true at all. But I can see how people would have come to that assumption, because a lot of people have been silenced, haven't they? Like we've said, So I can see why they would have come to that. But it's a fascinating one, that, because Geraldo Rivera was friends with John as well, wasn't he? He was good friends with John.
Do you want to know that? Yeah, he was. He was. I wouldn't say a close friend, but they were friends. And
Yeah.
that's interesting because a couple years ago, when Twitter was still Twitter, and Geraldo was still very sort of, a, I don't want to say the name. You know who it is? 45, the guy, Orange Menace, and
Yeah.
he was spouting a lot of that sort of stuff, and it was very like teetering on racist. And I was like, "What are you doing?" I would go on Twitter and I would see something that he would write, and I'd say, "Didn't you used to hang out with John Lennon? What are you doing? Are you saying
Oh,
these things?" And he's changed, thank God. It's like he finally saw the light and he changed. But I was on him all the time. I was like, "Why are you saying this? This isn't you.
yeah.
You need to change this." And he finally did. Thank God he finally changed.
I don't, just said that he did become a mouthpiece for 45 though for a short time, and probably helped him along the way, somewhat, didn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's good that he's come to he saw the light now and come to the realization now, I suppose. But yeah, it is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was caught up in it. Do you have like a little moth or something? Something keeps. I've seen it twice. Something's flying around. Do you have like a little? Is there a butterfly or a moth around you?
Oh right, yeah, there.
Okay.
It's Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, yeah. Well spotted. Yeah. Sorry about that. It probably looks bigger on there, doesn't it, than what it is on here, yeah?
I thought maybe you had an
Man, so
angel.
you should have killed that, yeah? Yeah. Sorry about that, Amy, yeah.
That's all right.
It could be a CIA camera, a really short one, like flying around filming me, perhaps.
Have you heard of those where they put them on mosquitoes or the whatever, and it is a spy? It's just like a spy camera. I've seen. Okay, wait. Okay, so let's go into this conspiracy. Okay, so I believe that the weather is controlled. Okay, not all the time, and I do believe in global warming. Okay, so
yeah.
In fact, they even talked about it here recently, where they showed exactly how they did it. Stuff that I already knew they were doing, but they finally said, "Yeah, we do all the stuff." I think they've been doing it for a long time. So when Kennedy and the First Lady were flying toward Dallas, Texas, it was cloudy and rainy. And then all this, and to get into the car without the top on it, the protective top, it had to stop raining. So as soon as he landed in Dallas, the clouds clear, the sun comes out, and they take the top off the convertible, and he becomes a sitting duck. And I've always felt like that, well, not 100%, but I always wondered if that was done on purpose. I don't know. I'm probably wrong.
No, I think it's a really good point. I mean, to bring it back to the Johns murder, I mean, it was unseasonably warm in New York when the night John was shot, and that was, I presume, because the killer was outside the Dakota building, and if it would have been snowing, he would have stayed out there. So maybe the weather was controlled there as well to keep him there, but it so happened, and then it went cold after it. No, I agree. That does sound like that. I mean, yeah, it's like you say, for the weather for them to take the top off the car, they wouldn't have done it, would they, if it was like sleeting and snowing? So the weather must have been, and probably has been, someone in control of it. Terrifying stuff, isn't it, Amy? To think that
sort of breaks
that kind of thing. Yeah. So do you believe the Earth is flat then?
No, I don't.
We
think the only flat planet in the universe if it was, and the water would roll off the sides, and so no. But I don't believe I don't believe every conspiracy theory, but I believe that there's a small bit of truth in all of them. Like, did we land on the moon? Yes. But were there some pictures taken afterwards in the studio? Yeah. Is the Earth flat? No. Is it a little oblong? Yeah. It's not completely round. It's maybe a little misshapen. There's a little truth to everything.
Yeah, that's it. I know. That's it. It's like you say, it's the people who go so far with conspiracy theories that give the people who've done actual research a bad name, isn't it? Everyone gets lumped in the kind of the same thing, unfortunately. But yeah, like I say, I just don't trust the media, especially when things don't sound right, and no, this is how it is, and it's like, 9/11, how the BBC had the footage before it actually happened is kind of strange, you know what I mean? With the time delay and stuff.
Well, my theory was,
do you have any theories there? Or?
My theory was that 45, for entertainment purposes only, knew that it was going to happen and was somehow financially tied up in that, which he still is and still works with those people. And if they were to look hard enough, they would find a connection there. And I know people don't want to believe that, but there was something to that. There's something to that.
Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting thing to look into, yeah. Well, before 45 got in, he was sprouting all these conspiracy theories, wasn't he? He was coming up with all these, but then ridiculous ones about like Obama not being born in America and stuff, and I suppose well, that's fascinating. I'll have to look into that 9/11 one thing. Well, is it still here? Is the moth still here, Amy?
I only saw it twice. I think it's your angel, right? You got an angel flying around, or who knows? It could be the CIA.
That could be it. Yeah. Hopefully that's it. Yeah. But you look beautiful tonight as always, Amy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, you do. You look fantastic as always, and that's after work. She must be really in the zone.
I need to I'm going to eat dinner here pretty soon. I'm going to eat leftover curry, so that's fun.
Is that the one you made yesterday or today?
I made it
Yeah.
yesterday, and you know what? I made a mistake because I thought I bought cilantro, and then I put it on there, and it tasted weird, and I was like, "What in the?" It's parsley, so
Oh God. Yeah, so,
yeah.
yeah. I always get nervous, when you go to a restaurant and the chef puts parsley around the side of the plate.
It's just gross. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's just like I think I've seen too many Gordon Ramsay's kitchen nightmares of them.
Raw,
when
the
there's
chicken
usually,
is raw.
and whatnot. Basically, that was the Incredible Hulk, that series. Gordon Ramsay would turn up somewhere, he'd get really angry with people, he'd help them, and then he'd go off at the end. It was pretty much the same series, yeah. But I do like Gordon Ramsay, but that's the funny thing. He was never as big in England as what he became. Oh right, it's back. Sorry, the moth is back. I'll try and keep it out of range of the camera here. Sorry, yeah, he was never as big in England as what he was in America. It came as a surprise to everyone when he became because he would talk about like himself being the #1 chef.
Huh.
We
must be glad for punishment. Who would eat at that restaurant? Because seriously, after you hear him yelling and you're like, the chicken's raw, I would be like, okay, I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'm going to get out to the bathroom window or something like that. And, yeah. I'm worried actually now. There might be a fly infestation or something like that, Amy. And, yeah. My apologies for the uncouthness of my living room. Yeah. Have we discussed enough tonight, do you think, then, Amy, the subject?
We've done enough damage with the CIA, so I guess we better stop. And
yeah, okay.
Thanks for
I can talk to you more tomorrow, as always, if you like. And I'll try and get Zoom set up so that we can record it properly, and because it'd be better, I think. Because we've had so many problems with StreamYard, so I'll make sure that Zoom set up for the next time that we talk, because be better for us. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and bye.
Thanks, Fatty Meg.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck on your flu shot. Hopefully everything goes well, and
good
luck with
that.
that.
No, I'm sorry, Amy. It's nearly 1:30 over here, so I'm falling asleep a bit. That's right. I don't want to come across as too docile. So
yeah, we'll end it, and we will say good night. Good night. What is that show where they
good
say?
Night. Okay, farewell then. Yeah, love you, Amy.
Love you too. Did you still want to stay on? Hold on, let's end it, and then hold on. End stream. Good night, America.
Farewell, universe.